Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Hi viewers, I'm so excited about our episode today. I don't know about y'all, but now with everything reopening and having kids myself, I've been struggling with how do I, talk with them about it's okay for us to go to the grocery store or go maybe to dinner. So today I have Jennifer Jenkins. I want to call her Jenny because that's how I've known her forever as Jenny. Okay. And she is a counselor, and she specializes with children and adults and talking with them. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Well, Jennifer, I have to I keep.
It's okay.
Again, we've known each other for a long time.
Let's
see, our younger ones are now 13, so it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
But let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself and
okay. So I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor and a registered play therapist supervisor. I'm in a private practice in Plano. I'm going on, 20 years now. Wow. And I just love it. I work with preschool-age children, school-age kids, middle school, high school, college, and adults and families.
Wonderful.
So all of the spectrum.
Yes. And you have two children right now, one heading off to
college. Yeah.
and then of course when I mentioned at 13, so
yeah, going into 8th grade.
So many different experiences.
Yeah. And different ages. So when we talk about working with kids and all of everything going on, you have to look at the developmental spectrum where they're at. A senior is very different than an 8th grader.
Definitely. So let's talk about, we've been, staying at home. Everyone's been, social distancing away from everyone. I know even it was a couple weeks ago was the first time I even saw my parents. Yeah. And it was so exciting. We saw our nephews and, everyone was at our pool. It was, there's 10. But we're all family. And, we would just stayed out on the patio. And it was the first time we had been together since March.
It must have felt really good.
It
just
did.
To appreciate that being connected. I think that's been the hardest part, that disconnect, doing the best that we can because it's out of our control. But we definitely are social beings and we need that human interaction.
Yeah.
So getting back must have felt so good.
It did. Well, I think, now things are starting to reopen, activities for the children, now that it's summertime, and a lot of anxiety with, especially with the children, different age groups. Some didn't understand really what was going on because they're too young. And then, of course, our teenagers, they do understand.
Right.
But how do we cope with it? And let's kind of talk about the different age groups because I know my audience, everyone has different age groups, kids.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and to your point, let's go ahead and talk about that it was traumatic. Like we were living in when you hear the word uncertain a lot.
Yes.
And there's something that I like to call intolerance of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And so with that, you don't know what to expect. And
Right.
you can go two ways. You can either panic of the unknown
Right.
and feel very, very overwhelmed, or you can shut down altogether. And so we see that across the board with kids and parents. So I wanted to talk a lot about parents, how do we take care of ourselves as parents and what the messages that we send, and a little bit about self-compassion, because we know that when we have self-compassion, our nervous system is more regulated and we can make better decisions, and our kids pick up on that. So in line with the different developmental stages, and that is so important. Anytime I counsel kiddos, I always include the parents, and one of the things I love to do is teach them about what should your child be doing at this developmental stage in their life? What's their cognitive development, their physical development, their emotional development?
Right.
Because it's a holistic type of
Yes.
treatment. And giving, and it includes a lot of parenting, because the parents need to have the words for how to help their children cope and provide that sense of safety. And so with the little ones, and I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm in this field, so I can share a little bit about what I've seen, but I think it's pretty generalized. A lot of anxiety, and that intolerance of uncertainty for sure. And so we have to work on a message of hope. We can replace fear with hope. And I think, sending that message, because believe it or not, a lot of good things came out of it. I mean, I do think we're still grieving.
Right.
There's a lot that's unknown still. But I was hearing from kids, I was doing a lot of telehealth, and they loved having dinners with their family. They loved getting to hang out with their older siblings who are typically never home.
Right.
They enjoyed playing games and going on long walks.
Yes.
That was really special. And so on one hand, I saw a lot of families reconnecting as a family unit. But then there was that disconnect with, we have to protect our grandparents or we can't see our friends. And so then that isolation and loneliness definitely came in. And that's what I'm still seeing. Kids are lonely. And so I'm glad things are opening up, and we still have to take precautions, certainly. But we have to remind kids that we're going to stay healthy, we're going to stay safe, we're going to be hopeful, and give them that permission to experience things, within the ramifications of what we can do.
Oh.
This is uncharted territory. Nothing like I've ever seen. Have you?
No, I don't think any of us have ever seen what we are currently going through.
Yeah.
And it is. I like the message of hope because, and kids do feed from, their parents. They feel, when you're stressed or you've got a lot of built up anxiety, on all ages, little ones, they're not going to vocalize it to you, but they're going to show it out in a different type of behavior. So I like the message of hope. And, as I think as a parent as well, with some of my friends, they've been apprehensive of, even themselves. And so that also triggers down to the children. Obviously, I was one of those that was an essential worker, so I was working all the time. But I would come home, and my little one was like, "Where have you been?" I go,
okay?
Change, and I don't touch me. Take your temperature.
Exactly.
And so, and he's still, my little one is still, I would say he's still the more nervous, even though he is getting out and plays tennis with a group of, but he won't go to the store, he won't go to our restaurant, he won't go to any public places at this time yet. My older one, he's 16, so that we can just explain that right there.
That's a whole nother.
So he's a little bit more, now he is cautious, but I think he's a little bit more opening up now that things are, starting to open up, that it's okay. We can get back out there, and live life.
For sure.
So.
And I think we have to respect where each person is.
Yeah.
And so, for your son, it's not something you want to push, but we also want to encourage kiddos that I primarily work with individuals with anxiety and depression, grief, trauma. So when the closures happened, they were perfectly fine because they were in their bubble.
Right.
I don't have to leave my room. This is great. But after a while, it starts to take a toll. So we were seeing that, or I was seeing some detriment to that. And so with compassion, I think as a parent, to send that message, you have to take care of yourself first. So that means setting boundaries, like with the work, home life. It's okay to say, I need this time to, especially for parents working at home.
Right.
That's another thing I hear. How confusing it is for my 5-year-old that I'm in the house working, but they want to show me what they've made or whatever. And so boundaries are really important, and then connecting through other times. I know you have to explain things to kids, but on their level.
Right.
So, your 8th grader is going to understand things differently than, a 6-year-old. Toddlers, or infants or toddlers, they have that natural, innate way to soothe themselves. They like to be held, so they can self-regulate through that. As kids get older and wiser, they start to pay attention and question, and they create their own story, which that's what we have to be careful about. That's when the anxiety kicks in. So I would caution parents to give facts, but also find out where your child is coming from. So like with your son, if he's anxious, you might find out, tell me more about that, and what are your concerns, and do a lot of listening. We need our kids talking to us more than ever, because they create false narratives or things that are going on with them that might not be true or even harmful.
Right.
And so you can gently correct without giving advice or making them feel like what they're thinking is wrong necessarily. Mm-hmm. And then the number one thing I would say is validate their feelings. Listen and say, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to take your time with this. There's no hurry. We need them to have that inner strength and to trust themselves. And then at the same time, gently encourage exposure. Let's go for a walk. Let's go, hey, the mall's not crowded at this time, and we're going to wear our masks, and we're going to walk around and just, integrate back into life, because we have to do that. And so I would say also so if we talked about toddlers and we're talking about preschool age kids, preschool age children will regress. They pick up on lots of things and they will act out through their behavior. Okay. So we think they're not paying attention, but oftentimes they are. So I encourage parents to please limit the media exposure or TV or even what they're seeing on YouTube videos and such, because it can be very confusing for them. And they get heightened anxiety, and so then they act out through their behaviors. And we're like, why are you acting like this?
Oh, I can get anxiety watching the news sometimes.
And that's a good cue. Like being in tune with yourself. There's a physiological response we have with our kids, and checking in. How are you doing today? And you need to talk about anything. I'm here for you. I do like parents to be a little bit in their kids' business, because we need to know what they're doing and what they're being exposed to. And giving them permission to talk about it and share their story is so important. Elementary age kids, that's a tough time, because they're physical, right? They need to be around. They're social beings. They like to play. Yeah. Probably one of the saddest things I experienced, I think it was back in early April, I was going for a walk, and the parks had caution tape all around the equipment. Yes. And I'm a play therapist, and children heal through play. That's their release. That's how they cope. And so to see that blocked off, I mean, I had to take a step back, and it was another part of that grieving process. Yeah. Like our kids can't play. But on the other hand, I saw parents walking with their kids at 1:00 in the afternoon, and I thought, wow, that child is so happy to be with their family, and the dogs are certainly happy, right?
They're the most happiest. They're like, everyone's home all the time with me.
Until they're exhausted. Yeah, I have a therapy dog, and I went back to work last week, and he is like, and I'm not taking him back to work with me yet because of COVID, but he is like, where are you going? He has separation anxiety. Like, I'm supposed to be with you at work. But so children need that physical release, and so get out every day, throw the ball, find out if there's another friend that the kids can ride bikes together, or have a play date in the yard. Of course, it's so hot, but like try to find times of the day where they can do that. High schoolers are another story, and that was experiential for me. I was living that, and I have the best high schooler in the world. But I started noticing. So teenagers need their privacy, right? And they need to be around people too, and being at school, and that was taken away from them. So I started to seeing a trend where teenagers were up through the night, doing their work and communicating with their friends and FaceTiming.
Oh yeah.
And can you blame them?
Oh, I know mine this was kind of a funny story. So my girlfriend, one night she hears my son's voice. She thinks he's in our house, and she goes to her son's room, and there's my son on the screen.
On the screen.
Yeah, the other friends, but of course my son's voice projects the loudest, and
That's
she was
awesome.
like, but they did it. They did the Netflix movies together. And, I think back, I go, goodness, if this was back like when we were growing up, we'd have nothing.
We would have nothing. I know.
we were great if we could, chime in someone else on our line and do a party line, but,
So true. Yeah, they're doing all kinds of things to try to connect, which I'm usually a stickler for electronics and video games and social media, and I do think you still have to use everything in moderation, but this was one time where I kind of conceded and was like, okay, this is your outlet. You need to do this, but still checking in and paying attention. So having said that, I do think that teenagers need, and all kids need, somewhat of a schedule to stay structured. And a lot of the reading and kind of talking with colleagues, it just helps them function better.
Yeah.
Because being up all night and your sleep cycles being off is conducive to increasing depression and anxiety. And kids need to feel like adults. We all need to feel like we have a sense of purpose.
Right.
And so not over scheduling, but saying, giving them some type of structure that they can follow is so important.
And I agree with that. So personal experience, my kids, we saw them sleeping in gradually longer and longer. My husband had zero tolerance anymore for that. So as soon as summer started, the kids are on the tennis courts at 7 a.m. So that means my house is running at 5:45 every morning. And they are very structured this summer. They have, they have something, very, their time. But then they also have their downtime, so they know, okay, this is my downtime that I can do what I want, but this is where I need to be at this time. This is where I need to be at this time. It has helped them a lot, too.
It does. It'll acclimate them back out and give them a sense of purpose and that physical release. I do think when we talk about being healthy and hopeful and providing that sense of security at home for all ages of kids, you said it in the beginning, they're going to get their cues from us. And so as parents, showing that self-compassion, there's going to be days if you just took out the trash and drank a cold cup of coffee, you're doing great.
Right.
Don't beat yourself up if the house is a mess. You're doing the best you can. But take that time out for yourself. If you need to go for a walk, if you're feeling overwhelmed with the news media, put yourself in check, and then, reconnect with your family and have some nutritious meals. Not deprivation. You're allowed to have cookies and cupcakes. Yes. But, and exercise is so important, in sleep. We really have to pay attention to the whole self.
Right.
And definitely reconnecting and listening. To help our kids move forward, we need to listen and find out where they're at. Like I said, it's going to be easy to try to give advice.
Right.
But pull back, find out where they're coming from, and validate their fears or their worries or where they're at. It's not wrong. There are no wrong. I tell kids, there are no wrong feelings.
Right.
You have a right to your feelings.
Yes.
And so really validating, I think that's one of the best ways to help kids heal and get through this and stick together. And then social interactions as much as possible.
Yes. And just take one day at a time. Don't rush it. One day
at a time.
That's all you can do. And even in your own family unit, some of y'all you may have a few of you are ready to go, and a few of you holding back. So it just kind of depends on your family's dynamics. I know in mine, I think it's my husband's one extreme. He's been going the whole time. I'm behind that. I've been more cautious than he is, but he's totally different. And then I would say my oldest, and then my youngest. But I think he's gonna adapt as the weeks progress, and he gets out there more. So, well, I have learned a lot, and I hope my viewers have. So Jennifer,
it's okay.
I keep saying that.
I love it.
we're going to have Jennifer's contact information down here. So if you want to contact her, if you have questions, or you may need some sessions, or just reach out. Her contact information will be there. And thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to do it. Anytime we
Yes.
can talk about, well-being and taking care of ourselves, and we need to have these conversations for sure. So thank you for doing it.
You're welcome. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to us.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.